Are you ready to make some really great art from pretty much from crap? From scrap, let's say scrap paper, from magazines, from newspapers to whatever you've got, your art, your kids' art that looks like crap and you want to make it look better. You know it's true. But I thought of this idea of taking some old art that I had and also some vintage imagery I got online. This is like public domain imagery, and cutting them up and creating a mosaic and then putting epoxy over it. I will first tell you what you need if you want to do this project. And also, the great news is that you don't need any talent. You don't have to draw. You could be the most untalented person on the planet, but you can still make something that looks expensive that actually impresses people. Because my son's friend came in and said, "Did you do that, Mama?" He calls me Mama. I'm like, "Yeah, I did that." He's like, "Wow, I'm impressed." And he sees me do a lot of stuff. Sometimes it doesn't come out. These are the materials that you need for this project. First, you're gonna need some kind of art that you can cut up. You can print things off of the computer that are public domain and free to use. You can take, like I said before, anything you want, and then you want to, yeah, I'm excited about this. I got to slow down. So you need artwork. Figure out what you want, what you can cut, and get it together. Then you're going to need something to cut it with. If you are steady, you got steady hands. I don't. You can use scissors and a T-square. You can use a T-square and scissors, or a T-square and an Exacto knife, and just you can cut it. Or what I opted to use, which I'm excited about, because I'm using it like crazy because I like chopping, is a paper cutter. This is a paper cutter. This is an Exacto. It's really good. I think it was like $50 or something, but I'm going to use the crap out of it. I'm going to cut up everything. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning. You're cutting up more stuff. So this is very handy if you're going to make this project. You also need a board of, like, let's say plywood, 1/4 inch plywood, and it has to be flat because I struggled. I'll show you my process with my first one. But a flat board is really good, or cardboard if you don't have wood, something that's rigid. So when you put either the epoxy on it or triple thick or whatever you're going to use, glue to coat it, it levels flat. So a board. And then I use Mod Podge. Am I saying it right? Mod Podge or Elmers Glue to glue the paper to the board or cardboard. And Mod Podge is pretty great. I love it. This is like the best. Don't bathe in it. Don't wash your hair with it. It's just use it and glue it. Use it to glue it. And then if you're gonna go that extra step and make it look glossy and expensive, I think it looks expensive when it's glossy. I don't know. You wanna get epoxy. You can get, there's so many different types of epoxy. It is not cheap. I'll put it in the description, I guess, the stuff I use. It hardens in an hour, but that's not true. It takes hours for it to harden. So it gives you good working time, but it's 2-part epoxy and it doesn't really smell that bad. It's not that bad. This one, I'm getting to like epoxy. I still suck at getting the bubbles out, but maybe I'll get there. So epoxy is kind of necessary if you want to make it look like lustrous. This is something else. If you are going for it, you can either buy a frame. So choose a size that you can get a frame for, or make your own frame. You need a ruler. You need some kind of ruler so you can measure your squares equally. It's not that easy. Even with that paper cutter, they're not perfectly square. So let's get on to the making part of this video, and I'll explain to you what I did. I finished one, and I'm in the process of making another. So there we go, let's go. Step 1 is to establish the size of the art you want to create. So get a board with whatever size you need, or cut it into shape and start with that format. That's number 1. Number 2 is have enough art or scrap paper, or you can do it with fabric. You can do it with whatever you want, but have enough that you can cut it to cover that board. And once you know you have enough, you are gonna start to cut. Cutting it to size, try to stay in your lines. If you see the lines, it doesn't matter. Go out of the lines. You could rip it, actually. You don't even need to cut it. You could just rip it. The point is, you could do whatever you kind of want to do, but I'm just going to show you what I did. So you want to cut it in equal quadrants. And then what I try to do, which was helpful, was to keep each grouping together. So I knew what I was pulling from, because in my mind it mattered, but at the end it really didn't matter. But you can kind of keep them together so you know what you're putting in there, right? So that's number 2. Start gluing. Is get your Mod Podge out. You maybe want a brush probably and some gloves because it gets sticky, and start really gluing your squares to the paper board. To the board. Start gluing your squares. These are kind of glued together to your board. Backside. I like to get the backside. I like to put some glue on the board itself because I was using plywood and it actually had some like resin in it, some pine resin, which I got all over me. But I put a lot of glue on the board itself. I put glue in, I put glue everywhere, and then I brushed glue over it to try to get any of the little corners that were sticking up, try to get them back down. It's a bit of a challenge and depends on the size of your project too, but start gluing well, because if it starts to rise up when you're putting your epoxy or your Mod Podge on top of it, it looks shitty. So you don't want to, you're putting all this effort into something, you do not want it to look shitty, okay? So just take your time, glue it down properly, and that's very helpful. Within this step, also, you have to think about the edges of your pieces, right? Because I didn't initially, but what I ended up doing on some, I'm not very consistent, I overlapped one of the squares over the side and then I glued it down, which makes it look a lot better. It makes it look a hell of a lot better, because if you don't want to put it in a frame, you don't want crappy looking sides. So think about how you're going to fix the sides so they look good from every angle. Let it dry for about just overnight or for a full day. And also just don't touch it, don't touch it. Make sure it's flat, and after your piece is dry, you can put heavy things on it, boom, to kind of like flatten it out to make sure it's flat. And maybe that's gonna take a full day or 2 days if you did what I did and used warped wood, which is stupid. So use straight wood or cardboard. Step 7 is to, step 7 is you want to apply your epoxy coating or Mod Podge coating. So the Mod Podge coating does not, or the triple thick coating does not look as good as the epoxy. But the epoxy does, and I love, and I didn't know this until I did it, it darkens your art. It makes it like look richer. I don't know, it makes it look better, because before it looked, I'm sorry, I'm screaming, I don't know, I'm screaming. Before it looked like wallpaper or wrapping paper to me, which, you know, there's some really great wrapping paper, some great wallpaper, but I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for art. And once I applied the epoxy on it, it just started looking better. This is where you need to take your time. This is where it's tricky. It's hard to get the bubbles out. It really is very difficult. I have been using alcohol. You can spray like 90% alcohol, or what's the other stuff I use? It'll come to me in a minute. I forgot. Denatured alcohol, that's it. Or you can use a blowtorch, a little like propane blowtorch, and that helps get the bubbles out, but you should do it in thin layers. You should pour your epoxy in thin layers, and to try to avoid big bubbles and also just lots of little bubbles. Bubbles are everywhere. I'm sorry. This first one I did is not perfect. It's wavy and wonky, but that's what it is. It's kind of interesting looking, I think, possibly. I don't know. But this second one I'm doing right now, I hope it turns out better. So I'm gonna do that after I make this video. I'm making, I'm doing it at the same time. So take your time with the epoxy and let it dry, maybe overnight. Pour another coat on, let it dry, and then you're gonna see a lot of little drips along the edges, you can kind of let that dry, and then you can snip them off, or you can sand them off, depending on if you're gonna frame it or not. If you're not framing your piece, you wanna take care that those drips don't show. So just like put some gloves on and go and wipe them away. So, and after it's dry, we're gonna go to the last step. This is the final step. Now that my piece is dry, it looks good, it's looking pretty good, I can make a frame for it or add a frame. If you decided to buy a frame, that's probably smart. You could just stick it in the frame somehow. You gotta figure out how to do that because it's gonna be thicker, it's not paper. You probably need to get a floating frame, or you can make a frame like I did. And all I did was screw the wood to the wood and added some picture hanger hardware to the back of the piece, and then I put it on the wall. That is it. That is it. I think if I would have done it all at the same time, it would have taken me probably 2 days because of the drying process, right? Or 3 days. So it's not a project that you can just do in a second. You have to have the time to let things dry. Even the Mod Podge takes time to dry. And it depends on the temperature, depends on like sunlight, I guess. I don't know. Let it dry. Let that shit dry. That is what I did. I had this vision, I think originally, of slides. I was thinking about like photograph, like slides, and doing something with slides, and that just didn't work out. And then I kept looking at some of the art that I had worked on, and I didn't draw this. I drew actually a bunch of the things in the original black piece, right? But for the more colorful piece, I just used vintage art. What was I talking about? I don't remember. I don't remember. Something about like, I don't remember. It doesn't matter. If you don't remember something, it was definitely not worth saying. So I'm just gonna say, try this out, and you try it in any way that makes sense for you with whatever art you have laying around. You can even have pieces that are stored away. Obviously, they're not that valuable if you're gonna cut them, and just have some fun with it. Just take some time for yourself and make something that looks good, and be proud of it, and don't stop thinking you can do this stuff, because you actually can do this stuff. Not 100% perfect all the time, but it's still fun to try it. I don't know. I enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it too. And I'm also working on some other pieces at the moment, which I'll get to on the next video, which I'm excited about. I'm gonna take my time doing this stuff because I don't just want to make videos just to make videos. That's not what I want to do. I want to actually show you something that you can do, that's fun to do, that you can use, and not just like useless garbage. I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So thank you so much. If you have subscribed, thank you. If you haven't, that's totally fine too. If you get something from this video that feels good, that feels like it's up your alley, I'm happy for that, because there's nothing better for me than to share some ideas that I have, because I don't want to, it's lonely keeping your ideas inside. I just think I like to see people try new things and exciting things, and to challenge yourself, because this is, it goes by quick. And if you don't give yourself a challenge, it gets boring fast. So anyway, I'll see you soon. Thank you. And I've been very busy working and doing this stuff. And I will get onto the comments soon. I'm so sorry. But to be completely honest with you, I'm really trying to not be on the computer a lot, because I find that it takes away so much time that I really want to use with my family and creating things and just being productive. So I'm definitely going to limit it, but I'm going to get back on it and say hi, because I miss talking to you, and I'll see you soon. Does it make any sense? I hope you do the same thing. I hope you do what you need to do in your life and not get sucked into that computer vortex. It's not good. It is not healthy. You just need to get out there and just experience nature. And I'm rambling. 4 minutes of rambling. Okay, see you soon.